This is Lanterman. She is our VP of Finance. She's here to talk to you today, as you well know. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself. As a presentation, afterwards, a few minutes, we'll have a question and answer session.
All right, you guys, thanks.
Give her a round of applause, please. Thank her for coming.
I brought candy, and as long as your instructor don't care, I don't care if you eat candy while we sit here and talk, it won't hurt my feelings. I grew up in Pratt, Kansas. I always like to have the Kansas thing because I've been in Kansas all my life. And so I worked at Wildlife and Parks, and so we've always had that sunflower thing. I came here right out of high school and played volleyball. Brenda Dean is in our payroll office, so if you are getting a check or anything, Brenda Dean played with me, and Terry Shiroki owns Simply Southwest and Fossil Drilling. And she also played, and we're all still here in Pratt, America, and the three of us played volleyball here at PCC. Graduated at PCC, and then I went to Wichita State. My first year, I drove back and forth on a 2-lane to 54 highway. Had to leave at like 5:30 in the morning to get my classes. I usually did Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, depending on the process. I worked because I was working part-time at Wildlife and Parks in HR. I got 6 tickets in like 2 months. One was on my motorcycle. I turned around and went back home. I thought that was not safe. Something was wrong with me. I'm just going to tell you, you can't have 6 tickets today and keep your driver's license. I had to go through some classes. My insurance went sky high, and I finally learned you can do a diversion out of that and pay a little extra money and show it like it's like your windshield wiper's broken or something. So I had a hard lesson on driving back and forth to Wichita State. I was going to go to get my degree in human resources. When I got up there in business administration, I decided to be a little more specialized in accounting. That will make a difference as I get later in my life. What the path I chose, not that I chose it, just circumstance. I probably didn't need the accounting degree, but believe it or not, it helped me every day of my life as I got into budgets. So Wichita State, I will tell you, when I was at Wichita State, I worked, this is kind of interesting, for a lady that did financial aid, processed financial aid for a cosmetology school. And so never thought about that. Oh, I'm over that today. And so for a semester or so, I worked with just her business, and she processed financial aid. I also worked while I was going to school up there for Levi Strauss. Wichita, Kansas sold the most Levi jeans than anywhere in the nation. That was from the west side of Wichita to the east. The west side was Sheplers, and Town West Square was JCPenney, and then the east side was JCPenney and Town East and Dandale's. They sold more Levi Strauss jeans than anywhere in the nation. And so I went to a guy's house. He was the corporate of Levi Strauss, and I inventoried Levi jeans at those stores and ordered those jeans every couple days. They don't do that anymore because Levi's Sheplers is no longer there. They're bought out, but online has taken care of that. But back in that time frame when I was going to school, I did do that. After I got through with Wichita State, I was started on my master's program, but I got a call from Wildlife and Parks to ask me to come be the deputy director of licensing and permits. Personal reasons, my mother was sick. We had lost our father when I was like 8 years old. So I came home, took that job, was deputy director. So of licensing and permits, that's all deer permits, that's fishing license, hunting license, park permits. I did that for a couple of years. But before that, I forgot. I worked at Emprise Bank right out of college. Emprise Bank is interesting because Greg Lesh, Dennis Lesharina worked there. Dennis Lesharina's brother is Greg Lesh, and I worked with Greg at Emprise Bank, which they're Pratt men that grew up here, but I didn't know Greg until I started working at the bank. That's gonna become interesting here as my connection at Pratt Community College because of the Dennis Lush Foundation, which now, my connection with Greg, his brother, I'm on the board now of that foundation, and I get to help pick those recipients of that money that comes to this college every single year. So that was my story. Then I moved back to Pratt, and I went to Wildlife and Parks, and worked as in licensing and permit. I was, the position of Deputy Director of State Parks came open. In Wildlife and Parks back then, you had to have a degree, you had to have 20 hours of biology or some type of natural resource. I didn't have it. I had an accounting degree. And I was throwing, back then they didn't email anything out, but they had an application for Deputy Director of Parks, and I started throwing my trash one night. I worked a lot of hours out there, and I noticed it didn't need a natural resource degree. So I applied. I went out and I got everything that you could know about state parks. And when I applied, I was told that they were gonna close, they were broke, and you're crazy for applying for it. So I called my professor at Wichita State, and I said, what do you think about me applying for this? And he goes, Linda, you were looking for a job when you got that one. Go for it. So I did. I got the deputy director position, worked under Dr. Jerry Hover for 14 years, and then when he retired in 2010, I became the director. Governor Laura Kelly, we did the dedication in 19 of Little Jerusalem State Park. We did 3 new state parks under me. We had the highest revenue we've ever had in Kansas State Parks. Under my 14 years as director, I went to Washington, D.C. and had to present to Congress over funding for natural resources. I was able to do that twice. Worked under Governor Kelly, worked under Sam Brownback, worked under Parkinson. I worked under probably 5 administrations at Wildlife and Parks. I spent 32 years there. So my life at Wildlife and Parks really pretty much formed my career and who I am. I had to go to Law Enforcement Academy. Think about those 6 tickets. Thank God it was just 6 tickets and not a DUI or something else, because you all think that you can get it a sponge by an attorney. Not when you want to be a law enforcement officer. We can see it. So when I had men and women that would apply for a ranger position that required law enforcement, I could see it all. And does it keep me from hiring them? No. But what it did do is I could see a pattern. So if I had several of them that would apply and maybe had a couple DUIs, I could almost guarantee you they were going to be some type of human resource issue in the future with that individual. Just the way it is. They either were insubordinate, they either wanted to test the system, didn't get to work on time, just a little bit of things. If you just remember, as you form your years right now, it's gonna make a difference, and people will notice that as you get into your career. We have 29 state parks, went all over the nation. I became president. I was on the board of the National Association, so I traveled all over the world with just state parks as a whole. There's a national organization. I went to Sydney, Australia, and presented at the World Park Congress. I was able to take my daughter with me. A few of us went, and that was Wildlife and Parks paid my way, and so the national organization went to Hawaii, hiked up the Diamond Head. I struggled. I always thought I was in shape, but I wasn't prepared. I know when I became the outstanding alumni here at PCC, I spoke on that Diamond Head hike. I had my flip-flops on, and here my career is in state parks, hiking. I knew what it was. I had no water with me. It was hot that day. Started going up, and my daughter and her cousin hipped up there and didn't have any trouble, and I could hardly flip and walk. I'd get up to a platform, and I'd think, this is like life. You get to a platform, and you have a decision. You can go back down, or you can keep going. And I'd wait a minute, and I'd get my breath, it was my legs were weak, and I'd get back up and I'd go again. And when you get to the top, I don't know about if Diamond Head State Park, that was because it's a volcano, and they would look for the enemy coming to get Hawaii. And so they would have troops stationed up there so that you could see everywhere on the island once you got up there. Was it worth the hike up? Absolutely it was. But just think about that as a career. When you're going, do you quit? Do you take a detour? I have taken many detours in my life. It didn't just fall into place. You have to, sometimes a door closes, I hear people say, if the door closes, something else will open. I like to stick my foot in that door and make sure it's gonna close for sure before I move on. And maybe sometimes I lingered too long, but truly, you have to think about what you're doing at this age and how you're gonna keep going up. And do you stop, or you just take something mediocre? There was nothing ever mediocre about what I did. I never wanted to just be sitting in an office doing anything. And in all those, I did a lot of jobs. I worked at the Ford dealership, I worked at Southwest Truck, just trying to make $3.25 an hour. And I remember thinking, I don't think I want to keep doing this. And so that's when I went ahead and went back to Wichita State. I didn't go right out of school. And so all those things that you do in your life start adding up. I know people in Australia now that's in the park world. I know people in Hawaii that's in the park world that I still connect to today. Does that help me from where I'm at? I don't know. Maybe one of you will need something and you'll come and say, hey, Linda, it's sometimes relationship building is the key to where you want to go, is having those relationships. Because I truly believe it isn't the smartest, maybe you'll get there. It isn't just the most savvy, but it's those relationships that help you build into what your career is. So sometimes it's just who you know. Sometimes it's just luck of you're at the right place at the right time. So while I was finishing up Wildlife and Parks, Flint Hills Trail is a 117-mile trail. It's the 6th longest trail in the nation. It goes from Osawatomie to Harrington, Kansas. That was done here while I was a director. Little Jerusalem State Park is out by Grove County. It's by Scott State Park. And our newest state park that I done right before I came here was Lehigh Portland. It's a quarry where they dug out for cement. It's crystal clear. It's the clearest body of water probably in Kansas next to Wilson. And they're just finishing up I wrote for grants. We got money, $10 million to develop that. And they're almost in the process, and I'm pretty excited about the ribbon cutting for that. But we did the ribbon cutting at Flint Hills Trail in Little Jerusalem under Governor Laura Kelly, and then I left before that one was finished to come here. So I want to say, then when I came here, the soccer complex. While I was at Wildlife and Parks, I oversaw the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant and the trail grant. I sat on the committee back in 1996 for Green Sports. I knew Bob Green. Bob Green is the one who donated that land. I rode on an ATV with him all up and down where Green Sports Complex is. It was wooded and it was an area. And then the Green Trail's right over there. He donated that land with a stipulation that they had to start moving dirt for outdoor recreation by a time frame. And the city had no money, and they didn't know how to do it. So I worked with the Navy Seabees in state parks to come in and just move dirt so we wouldn't take the land back. So when the Navy Seabees came in, we started moving dirt, and then I told the city they need to apply for a grant. They applied for like 5 grants. The first one, which we go to a board, and I oversaw those, and we had a group of board members all over the state of Kansas. And they selected the first round, probably around 300,000, so it was a $600,000 project to even get the ball fields in. It was way more than that, and we did it for 4 years. They got that grant. The city of Pratt then put for a bond issue a 1/4 cent sales tax to this. I went to door, and I told everybody, Green Sports Complex, it's not just about outdoor recreation, it's about the return on the investment the community puts, that they're gonna maintain in sales tax alone to help the city of Pratt. And their sales tax went skyrocketed after this opened up. Then Bob Green gave another 40 acres where the soccer complex is. That was the 5th phase of the grant, was the soccer complex. City of Pratt again applied for that grant in partnership with Pratt Community College. And they received another 600,000 for that and put that project in, and then we had local donors besides. So this was the ribbon cutting back whenever we did that, and then now the Point Pavilion, which I don't know if anybody are out there, but they're getting ready to do another extension. Another federal grant is gonna help with the Point Pavilion. It's gonna have wrestling out there. It's where the Park and Rec Department's going to house their staff, so there'll be somebody out there all the time, and I'm sure our coaches will be out there quite a bit also. So all of those had a process. The Green Trails is just to the south of it. I went to Bob Green's house in Wichita, Kansas. He had two brothers, and they owned the lumber yard, Home Lumber. And then they asked me to be on another committee here in Pratt. And I went to Bob Green's house to see if we could buy the Green Trails. He was gonna let us do it. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I went over there. He offered me a beer at 10 o'clock in the morning. He within a week later, he fell, broke his arm, went to the hospital, and he died. And I'm like, I'm in negotiations to get that land. What are we gonna do? His daughter looked me up because we were already overseeing Green Sports Trail through Wildlife and Parks. And she allowed me to lease it from her to honor her dad's wishes, but she wouldn't let me buy it. And so here, this last month, since I'm out of Wildlife and Parks, our city manager, they applied for a grant, and her grandson, or her son now, so I'm talking about a grandson of Bob Green, he let us buy that property for the city to where the whole Green Sports Complex is significant acreage now, and it has a trail system. So on January 1, at Wildlife and Parks, they always did a first day hike. We're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna put the beaver on it, and we're gonna have students that are still here. We're gonna do hikes, and I guarantee you there'll be 200 people or more. Come, we'll give them hot chocolate, we'll give them apple cider snacks, and we'll take them on hikes at Green Trail. And so we'll have PCC students do that instead of Wildlife and Parks doing it. And so there's the connection of that property, and I took Regina to Oklahoma City and had that young, Michael sign that deed to where they would put that over. And so that's a whole, look, 1996 to 2025, that's how long it took to put that whole Green Sports Complex together. So, that's my connection with PCC. I also sat on the board when Dr. Calvert interviewed to be the president. And so I've known Dr. Calvert since he started in 2013. And so I have been talking to him. I told him I was gonna retire at Wildlife and Parks about a year ago. And we've been talking. I kind of knew I'd fall into place here, but I didn't know exactly what. So here's my accounting coming in. Kent Adams retired, and I would need the accounting degree for this. Although I have a budget at Wildlife and Parks of $20 million, 125 full-time employees that was under me, 68 of them were law enforcement. I still have that same, and I was over facilities of 39 state parks. We had thousands of facilities in state parks, showers, buildings, whatever. Do the same thing here. So I'm over maintenance, so your dorms, any of that, that's what I'd be over. And so it was kind of a good fit. It's been a lot though. Education's different than what I'm used to, but it's been a lot. All right, so you guys, you're in sports administration. You really know what you're getting yourself into? I mean, if you're gonna do it, what are you taking it for? What's your plan? Do you know? I can tell you when I sat here, I thought I was gonna be a physical therapist when I sat in here in my first year. But do you really know what you're gonna get yourself into? There's crazy people out there. If you're gonna go in sports and sports administration, you know, you have to be able to control your emotions because they can't. So when you go into sports administration, when I'm in here, I gotta control my emotions. You gotta do that no matter where you're at because you are gonna be up against some of these people. I had a daughter, we took her all over the country to play ball, a traveling team. I could have been that. I could have been that. Thank God she played golf and was a very good golfer. I never played golf. So I didn't even know what she was doing out there. So I didn't have to do that because I didn't know enough about it. But you gotta keep in mind as you go into this field, or if you don't, somehow it might be happen chance, you gotta be able to control your emotions because there's gonna be others out there that don't. But you could be in some really good things. I think, yeah, they're maybe having some conversation, but I would have loved to have been right down there doing that. I think you'd have opportunities that others may not, if you're in the right path, if you get the luck of the draw, if you know the right people, if you do the right things on your daily life. If you're hiking up to that level, you gotta remember, where's the prize at the end? You may not know today, but where's the prize at the end? So, I always thought this was interesting. Sarah Thomas was the first female to officiate the Super Bowl in 2021. We lost, and I'm a Chiefs fan. But I thought, how did she get in that way? How did she persevere? And I'm not always big on first females. I was a first state park director, but guess what? A man put me in there. A man put me in this job. It's not just about your gender. It's about what you do. I've always felt like she had to work hard, right? We have to work hard. She had to do something right to get there. And so that's where I'm always at. You work hard. I work long hours, still do. It's just my cloth and my fabric. But you have to figure out what brought her to where she could able to get that. And my guess is she knew the game, number one. She could control her emotions, she could make a decision, and she worked hard. Okay, this is how I feel like this is how you can be the best. I think you have to have knowledge of what you're doing. I think you have to know your business. I feel like you have to, if you're gonna go into sports administration, you need to know what it is. You need to know what people are doing. And you're not gonna get all that in a building. You're gonna get that from experience, from jobs, from volunteering. You're gonna get that from being around people that do sports, right? Because if that's what you're going into. I always feel like you have to be very consistent. If you're not gonna be that, it will ruin your career. I always believe there's do-overs. So I will tell you that. We make mistakes. Sometimes, now if you kill somebody, you're not gonna have a do-over. They're gonna put you in jail. But sometimes there's do-overs, right? Get back up, dust yourself off, and do over. I think integrity, ethics, and competence are key. You have to have good integrity. You gotta be a good person. You have to have good ethics. You can't be a liar. You can't cheat. You can't steal. But you most importantly, I have to have the confidence that I can do this. Just like Sarah, I bet she had the confidence. I bet she's a little bit cocky on what since she was the first female to do that. And you have to have a vision. Yeah, I always feel like you gotta know your why. Why did Linda Lanterman go the way? Sometimes it was luck, but I always feel like it's the drive. I've always been driven, always. Maybe to the point where my tenacity would get on people, but you know, I don't care. I still feel like I've gotta do what Linda needs to do. And I feel like you gotta have some mental toughness. I feel like you can't always let everybody get to you. I feel like you gotta, you know, shake some of that stuff off when people bother you. And then you gotta go for it, you know? I just feel like you just keep going. It's like that, Dr. Jarnigan told me when I applied for that job, because then you do it, just do it. You were looking for a job when you applied for that one, just do it. If you feel like that's gonna, and if it wouldn't have worked out, you know what, he's right. I'd have done something different. My path would have been different. But it worked out. So I really feel like those things keep forefront of your mind as you start finishing out what you're gonna do next. Don't have to be college, but it may be. And then I also believe in this. I believe you gotta belong to professional organizations. I feel like I'm Kansas Recreation and Park Association. If you guys are going into sports management, I think you need to belong as a student. I think you need to go to some of those conferences so you can get to know. So those are your park and rec people, those are your state park people. But, you know, guys, those guys make some good money at coaching, running park and rec departments. They do pretty good. All these organizations, volunteers, Special Olympics. I'm telling you, people get to know you. And once you start doing that, your name will pop up. I guarantee you, your name. People will start seeing you there, and your name will pop up. But you've got to be bold enough and confident enough to make that happen. But I do believe you need to belong to organizations. And then finally, this is our saying in the state park world. We call it Ranger First. Before everything else, ask yourself, does my actions or decision enhance the experience for the visitor, or does it detract from it? You know, everything that you do, does your decisions, is it good for you and the people around you? Or are you just making a muck of everything and causing distraction everywhere you go? You can't do that. In a state park system, a ranger is there for law enforcement, but guess what? They're there to help a customer if a toilet needs cleaned, if they can't get their permits, if their babies are lost, if somebody had a wreck. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I feel like that's for everybody. You know, what are your decisions? What decisions are you making that makes, you know, some people just make life hard, right? I feel like some people just make life hard. And sometimes that's their decisions. And sometimes people make decisions that make your life hard. But you have to make the decision to put some calmness around you so that it's calm around others too. I think that's my it. Yeah. So, that's me. I come to work at PCC. I love it. It's a lot. I need the accounting degree for it. It's interesting. Education has a lot of federal regulations, state regulations, but I brought my business card and candy, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to ask. My door's, if it's not open, sometimes I've been closing it because we got audits coming up, but always happy to help in Proud America here. Any questions? Quiet group.
Don't get going here in a second. Have any questions for Linda?
What's generally like the time horizon for most of your like decisions? Is it more like short term or like longer term or variety?
That's a good question. Sometimes things come up that I would have never, and sometimes I stew about stuff maybe too long, but you can have a long-term goal, but be ready, it may change. It's like a race car driver. So I'm motorcycles. When you race in a high-speed race on a track, you don't look right in front of you. You have to always look farther. You should be doing that if you're going 80 miles an hour on the highway. But you have to look farther down for the distractions, right? And I think you need to do that, but I also feel like you have to be ready, because somebody may come up and say, hey, would you go to work for us? And I think then you make the decision, okay. And most of the time that happens, I could have went to work at UPS. I was doing my internship at Pizza Hut Corporation. I had just said, yeah, I'll come, and UPS called and wanted me to come to work for them. I'm sure they paid way more, and my life would have been different. But I didn't do it because I'd already told Pizza Hut I'd come to work for them at the corporate office in Wichita. I always wonder, what would I have done? I wouldn't have come back to Pratt, I'm sure. But, you know, you just make the best decision you can at that time.
Any others?
Appreciate,
I know you have others. I read 300 of those the other night.
questions?
What advice would you give someone who's like wants to go into your field?
Business?
Yeah.
I think you have to gain a little bit of experience too. If you keep in your education path a business, you know, I knew I never wanted to be a CPA. I knew I didn't. I mean, I'm a free range kid outside all the time. I knew I didn't want to do that, but I do think you got to get some knowledge base on that, and then start. It'd be interesting. Your first job probably be your telltale. Do you like it? Do you not? But you got to get as much knowledge about the business world. It could be entrepreneurship. It could be. It's just like helping that lady do FAFSAs. That was business. She wasn't a business student. And then working at Enterprise Bank, I got to know Greg Lesh. I didn't necessarily like working at the bank. I wore a suit every day, and I don't know. I just didn't care for it. But then things started changing. But you gotta have to kind of get your grades where they need to be. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the best to be a business student, but you need to persevere in your education, and then try to pick up some, like volunteering in some, they'll ask you that on the resume. People like that, actually.
What's the hardest part about your job?
Here, money. Keeping track of the money. Making sure we're within budget. We're using tax dollars money, and I can't go into town without people saying, what are you spending our money on? And it's making sure our expenses are really needed, so it's a need and not a want, and just keeping track of how much we spend to stay within our budget. Budget is a whole lot of other things, but we have to resubmit a budget every year, which is required by state law. And we can't go over that budget. And so it's hard to keep track of everything. I see everything. I see every expense come through this institution, and I sign on it. And then getting revenue. Students paying their fees, grants, making sure that we're having enough revenue to keep everybody going afloat. So is everybody in here just taking this because, or you plan on going to do something with it? Coach, teaching? You don't know? I didn't know either when I sat here, but are you a basketball player?
Mm-hmm.
I love basketball. I love all sports, but I can almost get giddy every time I walk. I can't come tomorrow. I've got to be in Wichita, but good luck.
Where's the game today?
Oh, it's tonight.
They have one tonight too.
Today,
And tomorrow, I'll be watching.
Tonight at 5:30, tomorrow at
Okay.
8:30 a.m.
Yeah, I can't, I gotta be in Wichita tomorrow, but I'll come tonight and watch it. I don't know, you guys, you gotta do, if you're gonna do, I just think sports would be great. That would have been my second career, if I could have done it. Because I thought, when I look back at those pictures of Brenda and Terry and I, we thought we were the best in the world. And we weren't, but, you know, that's the way I was, so I've changed. Now I think I'm the best in the world at being vice president. So, that has not changed. And that's confidence, that's, I don't know. I don't know.
Any other questions? Going once.
You guys, eat some candy. I brought it. I brought a business card if you want it.
Would you please again give one more round of applause?